Hello there, everybody. So, I don't know how to start this video. So, Hiro got to Sky pretty cure. The enemy team is this team. I don't want to pronounce their name wrong, but I thought it would be fun. All the enemies were themed after different animals, so I thought it'd be fun if the Hiro got to Sky Pretty Cure team had their own rivals to deal with, kind of like Sonic has Shadow the Hedgehog to deal with. So, the Undergoo Pretty Cure will be created in this video. Actually, I already finished all 5 of the characters as of starting this video recording. Let's get started. Okay, so first up we have Copa, the leader of the team. She is known by her pretty cure name, Cure Shadow. Yeah, Cure Shadow. And she's themed after dark shadows. A little bit about the story of Undergoo Pretty Cure. It's a video game idea, and something has gone strange in Skyland. The king and queen have gone nuts. I'm using air quotes. And the Undergoo Pretty Cure are the only ones who can figure out what's going on. As you see, I'm using references for all these characters. And for Copa, I am using Sora as a reference. I'm just using the references from the actual main characters of Pretty Cure, except Ellie-chan, which I'll get to later, for their Shadow the Hedgehog-like rival.
I found you, faker.
So, that's that. As you saw, I gave her a scar on her face. All of the Undergoo Pretty Cure characters have a scar on their faces from their past, which will be revealed later on. And it's not really noticeable here because Copa normally hides her scar behind her eyes, but it's more shown as Cure Shadow later on. You know, like she always says, scars never fully heal. Later on, you'll see me give Copa a little snout. Yes, Copa is actually a pig. Yeah, so I decided to make her a pig. I'll reveal why later on. Okay, so we're working on Cure Shadow, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more facts about Undergoo Pretty Cure. They're not like most Pretty Cure teams. In fact, most of the Pretty Cure teams normally have one enemy they fight against. Oh no, the Undergoo Pretty Cure has 2 of them.
There's 2 of them? I'm on it!
Yep, they have 2 enemies they fought off. First, they're in debt to the Undergoo Empire, and they're in debt to the government of the city that Hiro Sky Pretty Cure actually takes place in. So, all the cures, all the Undergoo Pretty Cures, all of their outfits are pretty similar to their respective Pretty Cure from Hiro Gatsu Sky. With some minor differences, all of the cures have a black diamond-shaped brooch on the front of their outfit. This is a reference to how the Undergroup Precure Empire, have little forehead gems on the front of their faces too. Alrighty guys, we're skipping the line art and moving straight to the coloring. Copa's color palette is purple. I'm giving her a black leather jacket with some blue jeans and dark purple shoes. The shoes actually match her hair color a little bit. And her skin tone is actually a dark gray, almost purplish. And all of the pretty cures don't have human colored skin tones. I actually ended up having to change one of the characters' skin tones. You'll see that later on. So I made most of her colors purple, but like Sora or Cure Sky, I made her pretty Cure form, Cure Shadow. I gave her some light pink underneath, like at the bottom of her hair, kind of like Sora has. And originally in the concept, a lot of the idea was black with more purple in it. I'm changing a lot of the black to pink. Oh, and you may notice that her gloves were kind of inspired by Shadow the Hedgehog, or rather the Sonic Boom version of Shadow the Hedgehog. And I don't know what to say. She has a headpiece that covers over her ears that looks like a giant bow with a heart in the middle. I'm gonna be skipping all of the highlights for this drawing to make this faster. Just like that, Copa is done. Okay, everybody, so next up is Mimi, aka Cure Sugar. And Mimi is the sweetest and the nicest of the team. And, inspired by a fake leak for one of the new antagonists in the series at the time, Mimi is actually a mouse. Yes, she's actually a cute little mouse. Why do people make mice so cute when in real life they're just nasty little vermin? When it came to designing Mimi, I had a little problem with her color palette. I didn't want to know what color palette she actually needed to be. I finally figured it out later, which you will see later. I'm working on Pure Sugar right now. Ignore the first reference that I'm trying to use. I'll bring up another reference later on for Pure Sugar. I just needed her head, so yeah. I made her eyes both open originally, but just ignore it. I'll close her eyes and give her a winking facial expression later on. Mimi is the pretty-cure of the forest, which forest mice do actually exist. I googled it and forest mice actually do exist. So that's okay, guys, now we are moving on to coloring. And I decided to make her a pastel rainbow color palette. I don't know why, but pastel rainbow immediately came to my mind when I thought about designing her. After all that fuss about her color palette, I don't know. I didn't want her to be white color palette, just like Prism. But I didn't want her to be blue because I figured out blue, but I didn't want her to be blue. You'll see why later. And in the concept art, I actually made the blue on top of her skirt. That was a mistake. It was supposed to be green, blue, purple on the bottom of her skirt. But the green in the ending drawing turned out to be a muddy gray, and I'm not really sure. Maybe it's the shading. I don't. The rainbow aspects of her corset, it starts as pink, orange, and yellow, and the bottom underlayer of her skirt is green, blue, and purple. And then later on, I actually give her some fringy tassels on her puffy sleeves that all are in the rainbow order. I'm gonna start coloring her eyes. She has dark pink eyes, but her eyes brighten as pure sugar. Oh, and right now I am coloring her bracelet pink. It's a plastic bracelet, so that's why it doesn't shine. She has earrings on her mouse ears. As Mimi, her earrings are pink, and as Pure Sugar, her earrings are rainbow. Oh, I forgot to, and one more thing. I decided to make her tail into a little heart shape. She normally does her tail like that. And after some shading, Pure Sugar is done. Next up we have Benny, the pretty cure of the jungles, Cure Stripes. So this is a little bit of a doozy. Like Burb, yeah, he normally calls Cure Wing Burb. He has 3 forms, a tiger form, a human form, and Cure Stripes Pretty Cure form. So I'm using a reference from the internet or DeviantArt for Benny's tiger form, and I pulled in Burb as a reference for how I could shade his eyes. And later on, I decided to give Benny only one set of claws on only one hand. I'll explain what's going on there later. Now we're gonna work on Benny's human form, and this is actually the second time I'm actually using the reference from Burb for an emo slash gothic styled character. The first time I did that was with Pure Moth. He was Pure Butterfly's cousin. And here is where I decided to change his skin tone. Originally in my concept art, I gave him like a lighter orange skin tone, but it looked too human and I didn't want any of the other 2 Pretty Cure characters or any of the Cures to have a human skin tone. So I changed it to match his tiger form a little bit, which is a cream yellow. This makes his hair color a little bit too similar to his skin color, which kind of bothers me a bit. But I decided for Cure Stripes, I was gonna make his Cure form's hair a bright orange instead of the yellow. So my idea for his design, I'm trying to make him look like a typical, almost nerd-like design, but when you mess with him and he gets too angry, he transforms into his monstrous tiger-like form. I'm gonna tell you why Benny only has one claw hand on his right hand. He only has those types of claws. That's the Empress's fault. She ordered him to be declawed at a young age, other than his right hand, which is the only one that wasn't declawed. Because of that, the Empress placed a spell on him to make him turn into a human. And Benny actually secretly writes letters to Burb, and he signs them as Bad Future, which Burb doesn't even know until when they first met. Now it is time to work on Kira's stripes. And what should I talk about? It was a bit of a challenge to actually design Kira's stripes. Like I said earlier, I decided to change his hair color from yellow to orange. And I decided to give him a lot of details that are pretty similar to Kira Wing. He has the simplest of the Kira's outfits, but you know, that's perfectly fine. I imagine that when he's using his Tiger Scratch attack, that there are more details that are revealed on his outfit that are normally not seen. Oh, and I decided because he only has one claw hand, I'm gonna give him only one glove. I don't think there was any Pretty Cure that only had one wrist accessory or glove on their hand, not counting Cure Moonlight because she actually has a half glove on her right hand. And because the head accessory thing worked so well with Mimi, I decided to draw Kira Stripes' little top hat, Freddy Fazbear inspired top hat, separate from him and place it on later after shading. I decided to switch it up a bit and shade Kira's Stripes and I decided to shade Kira's Siren, but you'll see that later. I forgot to mention this, but the scar on Kira Stripes' face, that was inspired by Jeff from the movie Saw 3. I saw his scar and I really wanted to give it to a character. Now today is the day. Unlike most Pretty Cures, with their eyes actually become brighter as your Pretty Cure selves, Kira Stripes' eyes actually become darker because he has such neon green eyes before, but his eyes now become darker as Kira Stripes. I actually forgot to add this in, but Benny actually has little things that come from his hoodie. They're little, I don't know how to call them, strings that come from his hoodie. after all that, Tear Stripe is done. Okay guys, so the final pretty cure is Cora, aka Cure Siren. Ignore the other reference, I decided to get rid of it. Siren is a shark, and she is the pretty cure of the sea. Yep, she is a water-themed pretty cure. Originally, I wanted to give her a mermaid form, but I decided that because Benny already has his own tiger form, I was going to scrap the siren, the mermaid form for Cora and just have her be a humanoid shark. She actually has a dorsal fin on her back. It's right next to her neck. Starts at her neck and ends right at her spine. But I decided not to draw that for some reason. We're now working on Cure Siren, and her color palette is actually blue. Well, her top and her skirt are blue, but the rest gray, but the rest is blue. And I decided to give her, this is why I decided not to make Cure Sugar blue, because I didn't want two characters that were blue. Yeah. And, sorry. I decided to give Siren some translucent sleeves and translucent skirt. Actually, it's a half skirt, kind of like what your butterfly actually has. And I decided to, later on, I gave her, originally in my concept art, she had a shark fin coming out of the front of her head, but I thought this was too stupid, so I decided to change it to an octopus tentacle. Now we're on to shading, and most of her color palette is pretty blue. Her skin is almost blue, but it's actually a light gray. Later on, I decided to give her a gradient to blue on her tail, her fins, and her arms and her legs. And Siren actually has a unique gimmick. Her eye whites are actually yellow instead of normally white. She's the only pretty cure to have this. What kind of facts can I say about Korra? Korra is able to make bubbles with her hands, and she is a professional swimmer, and she has a mermaid pool where the Pretty Cures used to live before the government invaded, where she had fake skulls decorated underneath her mermaid pool and her bedroom that is close to the water. She can communicate with other sharks, and I think that's it for facts. Without further, I wasn't sure if I wanted to keep her name as Pure Siren or Pure Kraken. I think it might be fun to have all of the Pretty Cures start with the S as the first letter of their cure name. But what do you think? Should Pure Siren be Pure Siren or Pure Kraken? Let me know in the comments. After all that, she is done. Now for the last member of the team. Aha! We ain't done yet. Kit. She is the mascot of the team, and she gave the Pretty Cures their powers. And she is a fox because she's a blue and green colored fox. Green fur, a blue crescent moon on her forehead, and blue eyes. And her right eye she's actually blind in her right eye thanks to the Empress and her hunters. I'm not going to show you a lot of Kit's designing process because she is pretty simple. She was actually the fastest of the Pretty Cure team, but with a coloring and shading off camera, Kit is done. Thank you for watching, everybody, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!